Why does diplomacy move the world more than war? The answer is simple: incentives. States act when they stand to gain more from negotiation than they would lose in war. Throughout the Cold War, the US and the Soviet Union avoided direct, all-out conflict. And yet the world order was rewritten again and again at the negotiating table. This slide explains everything. Research in diplomatic history and international relations shows that states have dramatically altered their behavior through negotiation, not just through war. Today, let's look at the data. On the diplomatic stage, no two nations are equals. Negotiating power is determined by geography, economics, and military strength. 9 countries are generally believed to possess nuclear warheads. But under the NPT, only 5 are recognized as official nuclear weapon states. Those same 5 hold veto power on the UN Security Council as permanent members. According to IMF 2024 estimates, the top 10 economies account for roughly 60% of global GDP. And in the 2020s, nearly every nuclear-armed state is modernizing its arsenal. China's nuclear buildup, in particular, is fundamentally shifting the balance of negotiating power worldwide. This asymmetry defines the starting conditions of any negotiation. Weaker states only get a seat at the table when they have something to offer a stronger power's interests. 3 core mechanisms drive negotiations. The first is BATNA. It stands for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement, a foundational concept in negotiation theory. The stronger your alternative, the harder you can push. During the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, it wasn't just the naval blockade that brought resolution. Secret understandings over a U.S. non-invasion pledge and the removal of missiles from Turkey were equally critical. It wasn't BATNA strength alone that produced agreement. It was the deal made in the shadows. The second mechanism is time pressure. Elections, legislative deadlines, the expiration of sanctions. The side facing the clock tends to make concessions. But the opposite can also happen. Talks can collapse entirely. The 1994 US-North Korea Agreed Framework wasn't simply the product of time constraints. The catastrophic projected casualties of a military conflict, along with coordination among allies, were equally decisive factors. The third mechanism is information asymmetry. What does the other side truly fear? What will they protect to the very end? Whoever knows the answers controls the negotiation. When all 3 mechanisms converge, history moves. The most frequently deployed weapon in modern diplomacy isn't military force. It's economic sanctions. Look at the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. The 2012 sanctions push drove Iran's GDP growth rate down to roughly -7.4%. Oil exports were cut in half. That economic pain, combined with the new administration's openness to dialogue and back-channel contacts, ultimately produced the agreement. But that agreement has since unraveled significantly. As of 2025, the Iran nuclear issue remains very much alive. The sanctions imposed on Russia from 2022 onward were equally sweeping. Major banks were cut off from SWIFT, severely constraining international payments. Over $300 billion in foreign reserves were frozen. Yet as sanctions expanded in stages, the yuan's share of Russia's export payments surged past 30%. India's imports of Russian crude oil also rose sharply. Trade realignment with these countries has partially blunted the impact of the sanctions. Sanctions are easier to deploy than military intervention, but they carry costs for the sender as well, and their effectiveness varies enormously depending on the situation. Many of history's most consequential negotiations never happened in public. In 1971, Henry Kissinger secretly traveled to Beijing. Publicly, he was said to be resting due to illness during a visit to Pakistan. In reality, he had slipped away to Beijing in secret. That clandestine contact set in motion a gradual process of rapprochement. Nixon's 1972 visit followed, and formal diplomatic relations were finally established in 1979. More than 2 decades of estrangement began its slow reversal from that single covert meeting. The Oslo Accords of 1993 followed the same logic. For 14 months, Israeli and PLO representatives met quietly at a villa in Norway. The world only learned of it after the deal was done. Those negotiations produced mutual recognition between Israel and the PLO, along with a framework for interim self-governance. Why does secret diplomacy work? Because it keeps domestic hardliners out of the room. But secret negotiations also carry a risk that can later be challenged as lacking legitimacy. Transparency is a virtue of democracy. On the diplomatic front, it can sometimes be an obstacle. The greatest failure of diplomacy isn't the inability to stop a war. It's sowing the seeds of the next one. In 1919, the Treaty of Versailles ended the First World War. But the humiliation embedded in the Versailles system collided with the Great Depression and the collapse of Weimar politics. Together, they created fertile ground for the rise of Nazism. This wasn't a simple chain of cause and effect. It was a compound collapse. The Treaty of Portsmouth, too, the resentment over its terms shook Japanese domestic politics to its core. History shows that how a diplomatic outcome is received at home is directly tied to the stability of the government that signed it. And now, Ukraine, the Taiwan Strait, the Middle East. In the Middle East especially, mediation over a Gaza ceasefire and hostage release is shaping regional order at this very moment. The negotiations unfolding right now will determine the world the next generation inherits. What kind of future do you think today's diplomacy is building? Where do you see the most consequential negotiation playing out? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your perspective on the real mechanics of diplomacy. Thanks for watching. This channel analyzes world events through the lens of geopolitics and history. Not emotion, facts, not opinion, mechanisms. That's how we deepen our understanding of the world. If you found this analysis valuable, consider subscribing and joining me on the next deep dive. I'll see you next time.